All right. Well, welcome to The Flow. My name is Melody Gallu, and I'm really glad that you guys are here to join me today. I see it once again as investing in yourself and investing in your mental health. Right now, if you want to take a second to share on social media or text people or whatever that you're participating in this workshop, let them know. You could tag us, as you can see. Which way is it? Oh, right there. There are some of our tags there. But just let people know. Today, we're going to be focusing on loss and grief, a starting place for healing. And, I think a lot of people may be afraid of this topic. And so, we are going to be recording this so so that they could join us. Okay, I'm going to hit record now. All right, all right. So yeah, thank you guys for being here. The flow is an idea that I had. It's related to FNKO, a series of coffee house style performances, but the flow is another creative outlet for people. The flow is a place for people to write. I believe that anyone and everyone can be a poet. Everyone and anyone is a writer. Poetry can look however you want to, and today, the focus of this workshop is going to be on loss and grief. And so, yeah, I'm really glad that you guys are here. Let me share my screen with you guys to tell you a little bit about myself. So like I said there, I believe that everyone is a writer. We need these places for healthy outlets. A lot of times, I know for myself, I get stuck in my head. And so it prevents me from doing a lot of things because I'm thinking so much and I'm holding so many of my emotions and my thoughts, my experiences all in my brain. And it makes it hard. It makes it hard to work sometimes. It makes it hard to, have friendships, relationships, all that kind of stuff. So I work at UCSF, but I want to give full disclosure that I am by no means, a trained therapist or professional in terms of this, but I think in terms of life experience, I am well versed in loss and grief, and just throughout the things that I have gone through in my life. And so I just want to share it with you guys, share a space where we can talk with each other about it. Because what I find is when we are able to connect with other people in community, it helps us to process, it helps us to find encouragement, to know that we're not alone in whatever we are experiencing. And so I hope that that's what you find here today at the Flow in this workshop. But also as we share different things, other people are able to benefit from that, to see, yeah, that they're not alone, that they're not alone in their loss and their grief. Each person experiences it in a unique way, but at the same time, loss and grief is not a unique experience just to you. And I think that that's something that loss and grief tries to lie to us about, right? That we are alone, that no one else can understand, that no one else knows what we're going through, and it prevents us from finding that next step, that healing, the starting of healing. And so hopefully you'll find that starting place here. There was a poem, this really short poem by this Persian poet named Rumi, that I read, and it says here, I said, "What about my eyes?" He said, "Keep them on the road." I said, "What about my passion?" He said, "Keep it burning." I said, "What about my heart?" He said, "Tell me what you hold inside it." So I said, "Pain and sorrow." And then he said, "Stay with it. The wound is the place where the light enters you." And I think that that's such a beautiful quote, beautiful poem, short and sweet, but such depth to it, to help us to remember that life keeps going, moving forward. And that pain and sorrow, a lot of times we want to run from it, but through that pain and sorrow, we can learn so much from it. We can learn so much about ourselves, about life, about other people, about how to, just live life. So here's some logistics for us. So this is going on live right now on Sunday, September 27th. This is meant to be interactive. So there's those of you guys who are participating with me on Zoom right now. If any of you are in the Facebook world and want to jump into the Zoom, you can find it in the description. But this is meant to be interactive. So I will be asking different questions, and sometimes it will be things, just put in the chat or give you time to write down in your notebook or on your computer, however you want to do that. Which brings me to that next point. Make sure that you have some sort of writing utensil. I mean, if you want to sit back and kind of watch and just think in your head, you could do that if you wanted to. But I think that writing it and just putting your pen, your paper, or your fingers, out there and doing that physical motion is a part of that healing. So it's up to you. I will be using my phone to keep time because we only have an hour and a half. We're supposed to end around 3:30. So I want to make sure that we are being mindful of the time so we can get through things. I have to let you know, though, there was a lot that I wanted to pack in here. And I tried to, but maybe sometime we'll have another one so that we can think more on loss and grief, because it really is a lifelong process of healing through life, loss and grief, but also throughout your whole lives, you're going to be facing different kinds. If you're in Zoom, feel free to rename yourself if you'd like to. Some people, like as you're sharing in the Zoom chat, I will be reading some of it out loud. So maybe if you don't feel comfortable, don't want me to say your name, go ahead and rename yourself. Also, there's going to be an opportunity to share what you've written when we get to the very last part, the meat of our time together. So kind of be prepared for that. If you'd like to share, let me know and you could think about that. But also, one of the big things for my events is that I also always try to create a safe and encouraging environment, a safe and encouraging space. So here we are trying to be respectful of each other's thoughts, respectful of each other's feelings and things like that. We do try to be family friendly, though, in case any youngins wander in. But we do want to just make sure that when you're here, you feel like you're supported. So those are our logistics. Poetry is. So I wanted to share with you guys, that I do believe that poetry is, simply the expression of feelings, experiences, and ideas. Today, it may seem like we're doing more of just a writing workshop, but you can also create poetry from it. I've read all kinds of different poems, and some of them, they rhyme. Some of them have certain patterns that they follow, but you can just write however you'd like to write. So that's what I want to invite you guys into right now, into our space as we continue with this workshop. Don't block yourself as you're writing and as you're thinking. Don't try to go back and edit or censor yourself. Don't worry about spelling. I just want you guys to write. Just keep writing. Just put your words onto that paper. All right. So let's see. Hold on a second. So now I want to invite us to begin our own writing. And so we're going to go to our first question. And I want to invite you guys to use the chat function here in Zoom. Or if you're on Facebook, you can comment there. But this first question, we'll have 2 minutes so you can think and then you can respond within 2 minutes, is what are some words, phrases that come to mind when you hear the word loss? So we'll give 2 minutes for that. Words and phrases when you hear the word loss. So I see in the chat we hear the word gone. I'm giving space for people to just think and go ahead and type that out into our chat. Found. When someone hears the word loss, they hear found, death. Mm-hmm. Someone said emptiness. Black hole. Mm-hmm. I put down the word incomplete and sadness. What other words do you hear or come to mind when you hear that word? Loss. Yeah, there's someone put despair. I also put darkness. And now let's switch the gears to the other topic for today, which is grief. What are some words, some phrases that come to mind when you hear the word grief? On Zoom, we hear sadness, crying, a process that goes on for a long time, pain. Sadness. Mm-hmm. I'm putting depression, my bed, food. Any other words or phrases? Maybe it's things that you've heard other people say when it comes to grief or grieving. Here on Zoom, someone says, good grief. Yeah. So good grief reminds me of two things. One, Charlie Brown, that phrase, good grief, Charlie Brown. Or good grief, as in grief can be good. All right. Thank you guys for continuing to participate by sharing in the Zoom chat. I want to share a couple poems with you guys, different ways that we can experience loss or grief. This first poem is called One Art, and it's by Elizabeth Bishop. So let me read this out loud to you guys. The art of losing isn't hard to master. So many things seem filled with intent. To be lost that their loss is no disaster. Lose something every day. Accept the fluster of lost door keys, the hour badly spent. The art of losing isn't hard to master. Then practice losing farther, losing faster, places and names and where it was you meant to travel. None of these will bring disaster. I lost my mother's watch. And look, my last or next to last of 3 loved houses went. The art of losing isn't hard to master. I lost 2 cities, lovely ones, and vaster. Some realms I owned, 2 rivers, a continent. I missed them, but it wasn't a disaster. Even losing you, the joking voice, a gesture I love. I shan't have lied. It's evident the art of losing's not too hard to master. Though it may look like, write it, like disaster. So I liked this poem because it just talks about how we lose things every day and in so many different ways, you know? There's losing, physical things like her mother's watch, losing other physical things. Maybe it's abilities, maybe because you break your arm, you do something like that. Other losses can be self-concept kind of losses, where it's like your different roles. Some people right now during shelter in place are struggling with their with not having a job or having a different job, making like their jobs looking in different ways. Sometimes it's a worldview that we feel a loss in, maybe because you're going from adolescence to adulthood. Sometimes there's a loss of dreams, like how you wish things could have been or could be. Sometimes we face social loss, and I think this is the one that most people focus on. Social loss, such as loss of relationships, loss of people. The next poem I have for you guys is called Hourglass, a last love poem, and it's by Nancy Levin. And so this one actually was written the day that she filed for divorce. I loved you as much as I could, as long as I could, hard as I could, hard as it was. Steadily holding on to the small piece of maybe that was finally destroyed. I have done all I can. We came together in our respective corners at the bottom of an hourglass with our own strengths, our own wounds. Marriage is to be found in the voyage through the tiny neck of this timepiece, crossing up and over to the opposite quadrants. Those qualities of the other missing in ourselves are to be absorbed for each to become whole. My love, hard as we try, we simply did not make it through the passage. The wounds too deep, the rage too loud, the voice too silent. And though I love you, I cannot be married to you. I lost myself in the giving of everything to you. I now know heartbreak in one is a pain unable to be healed by the other. We can only heal ourselves. For months, I have been nowhere and everywhere, wheeling my home behind me into the havens of others. Now I need to land safely inside the space of my own. I was starving to death before hunger finally saved my life, waking me to desire. And now you are free from the wanting more than I could give, and I will love you beyond the wound. For this woman, she actually gave this talk, and she wrote a book about this, about her divorce and just how that relationship really made her lose who she was. And so she wrote a book about regaining things, regaining herself. And so, that's another loss, a loss of that kind of relationship, a loss of identity. And this last poem for this part is When Great Trees Fall by Maya Angelou. And she actually wrote this in response to when Martin Luther King Jr. died. He actually died on her birthday. And they had a good relationship with each other. And so this poem was just about that relationship and some of her regrets and just her reactions, the way that she grieved this. And like I said, he died on her birthday, and so it was also hard for her. She actually stopped celebrating her birthday, I think for a long time, if not forever. But here's When Great Trees Fall. When great trees fall, rocks on distant hills shudder. Lions hunker down in tall grasses, and even elephants lumber after safety. When great trees fall in forests, small things recoil into silence, their senses eroded beyond fear. When great souls die, the air around us becomes light, rare, sterile. We breathe briefly. Our eyes briefly see with a hurtful clarity. Our memories suddenly sharpened, examines, gnaws on kind words unsaid, promised walks never taken. Great souls die, and our reality, bound to them, takes leave of us. Our souls, dependent upon their nurture, now shrink, wizened. Our minds, formed and informed by their radiance, fall away. We are not so much maddened as reduced to the unutterable ignorance of dark, cold caves. And when great souls die, after a period of peace blooms, slowly and always irregularly, space fills with a kind of soothing electric vibration. Our senses restored, never to be the same, whisper to us. They existed. They existed. We can be and be better, for they existed. And so that's a beautiful poem by Maya Angelou as a tribute to your relationship with Martin Luther King Jr. So now I just want to give a few definitions for us. Loss is change that includes being without someone or something. Secondary losses, because you usually have your primary loss, like the loss of somebody. Secondary losses are other losses as a result of that primary loss. So, for instance, for me, my grandma passing away, she passed away, I lost her, she's no longer here. The secondary losses that I faced was that loss of companionship. She was the one I watched TV with. The loss of my mother figure, because my mom left when I was a baby, and my grandma came in and stepped in. She came from the Philippines to take her place. So there's secondary losses that we face. Also, I also lost as a secondary thing one of my great supporters. She always came to my sports games and all these things. And then the last definition I want to give is grief, a reaction or response to loss. And here's a couple more things, and then I'll stop talking. We'll get back to writing. 5 stages of grief. This is one that you probably have heard before. It comes from actually a book. Nowadays, people like to say there's all kinds of different stages. In the book, it says you go through this stage by stage by stage, but in life, you can jump around to these different stages. But this book was written by someone who had to be in a hospital and watching a lot of people pass away and spending those last moments with them, hearing their stories and hearing how they were feeling. So denial, and I'll use my grandma as the examples for these different stages. Denial is saying like, no, my grandma, she couldn't be gone. She's just in the Philippines because that's where she went before she passed away. Anger, being mad at her for leaving, mad at how I found out. I actually found out because my dad came home from the Philippines and he gave me a new guitar and he said, oh, your grandma helped me pick this one out. By the way, she died. I was like, what? And so I was mad. I was so mad. He was just so nonchalant about it. And he told me that she had died 2 weeks before I found out and that they already had the funeral and everything was already done. She was buried and done. Bargaining is thinking, if only, a lot of if only, what ifs, For me, it was like feeling guilty, feeling bad for having left for college because maybe she would have stayed with us and maybe I could have taken care of her better. Depression, for a long time, I didn't feel like I wanted to do anything, the things that I enjoyed, and I lost a lot of weight because eating was one of the things I enjoyed. And then acceptance, I still think I teeter in between all of these different things and it's been over like 15 years, but acceptance is she's gone, now what? So I have a writing exercise for you guys. You guys ready? You awake all the way over there? All right, here's a question. What are ways that you have experienced loss? I gave a little, other little prompts to help you kind of think of the different ways you might have experienced loss. But we'll take 2 minutes to kind of think, make a list, just make a quick list of all the different ways you've experienced loss. So here we go, 2 minutes. And you can feel free to, write it in your journal or share it in the group chat there. All right, 2 minutes. What ways have you experienced loss? Is there a loss you haven't shared with someone? A loss you wish you had shared with someone? Grief you didn't you weren't able to share with other people? Or something that you felt maybe it's too silly to grieve over this. I shouldn't consider this a loss. So if anyone wants to share in the group chat, feel free to. So here we have in Zoom, someone shared loss of previous dreams, career goals, because of sacrifices made to become a mom. Mm. Favorite shirts, friends, her mom, grandparents, broken relationships. Yeah. For me, I put my grandma, job, not because of shelter in place, but the job right before this job, I was starting to get out of that job. I've lost identity in different ways. My childhood, because of having to deal with different situations. I've lost my keys, of course. Lost my mother, but because of divorce and other life circumstances. But feel free, guys, to keep adding more stuff to the chat or writing them down in your own notebook. So now we're going to do a writing exercise, and we're going to do 2 minutes on each of these. So I just showed you all of them, but I want you guys to look at your list that you created. And maybe it's a loss that you faced a long time ago. Maybe it's a loss that you are dealing with right now. But choose one of those losses to focus on during our time here together in this workshop. And so the first question we have here is, when you're looking at that loss, why do you consider it a loss? What about it makes you consider it a loss? When you think about the loss that you're going to focus on for our time, what about it makes you feel loss? So for all of these questions, feel free to use the chat, and I will share mine. So for me, for my grandma, she's the one that I chose as my loss that I'm going to focus on during our time together. But the reason why I consider it a loss is because I loved her. Love and loss is like a package deal, you know. But also she loved me. She took care of me. She was my mom. She's who I considered my mom, you know. She was the one who helped bring me comfort whenever I was sad or would cry. She would be the one who would jump in to give me hugs and take care of me and all that stuff. Here in the group chat, someone says, I feel that it's a loss because I feel like I've lost direction in my life. And what I was working towards college has gone to waste. Yeah, definitely. I think that that's tough when you feel like you're going on a particular path, and suddenly there's either a fork at the road or a detour or just a block there. For another person says, for friends, physically they're gone, and so there's that loss of emotional support. Yeah, I think that comes in so many different ways: loss of relationship, but loss of friends. Especially like when you move away for college or from college, or you move for a job or for family or whatever reason, that your friends aren't there anymore, or they move. You do feel like that loss. Like, it's different when you're in person, just like in shelter in place right now. We're able to have these communities online, and it's virtual, and it's great, but nothing can replace that physical like presence of somebody. All right, thank you guys for sharing. Let's move to the next one, which is, how do you believe you are supposed to feel about that loss? So the loss that you've chosen, how do you believe you're supposed to feel about it? What should you feel? How would you answer that question? When I think about this loss, I should feel. So I'm starting a 2-minute count. Someone in the group chat said, for the question, how do you believe you are supposed to feel? She said, I should move on and choose a different path and not linger on the thought for too long. Life is long, and there are things that you need to give up on in order to have a new chapter in life. Yeah. I think that's definitely, like I said earlier, like a tough one when you're going down this path and you face all these blocks. Like, what do you do? Are you supposed to just say, okay, don't cry over spilled milk, and just get over it and go on with something else? Like when this block comes up, or is it something like, I think of a doorway, right? That, or maybe a wall. Let's just say a wall. Like, sometimes when you're on your path, you have this wall that's before you, and you think you're going down the right path until this wall. And then you look at that wall and you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do about this wall? Does this mean that I have to stop and turn around? Does this mean I have to keep walking along the wall until I find the way around it? Do I, have to dig underground to get like under this wall, or do I have to tear down that wall? There's so many different options. For me, when I was thinking about my grandma, how do I believe I'm supposed to feel, is happy for her, that she's not having to be here now, especially, with everything that's going on right now. Like, I think about it, like how terrified I was to think about my grandma having to face like COVID, having to keep her safe from all the things that are going on. But I feel like I should feel happy. Let's move to this next question. What do others tell you about how you should feel? So you think about what you believe you are supposed to feel, and sometimes that is informed by what other people have told you. So what are other things that other people have told you about how you should feel about your loss? So someone here in response to what others have told them about how they should feel about their loss, she says, don't compare yourself to others, work on yourself, find something you're passionate about. Basically, like a move on and get through it mentality. For me, I put others say that, that's life. It's the circle of life. People are, they live, they're born, they live, they die, and so why are you sad about it? You shouldn't be sad when someone passes away. But also along those lines of being happy for her, that before she was passing away, she, had all these health ailments, like having trouble walking and all these things. So that I should be happy that she doesn't have to feel any more pain or go through any of that stuff. So let's move to the next question. And yeah, feel free, you guys continue to use the chat, or if you want to just write it down in your own notebook, that's awesome too. Okay. So the next question, how do you actually feel about the loss? If you could just feel what you're feeling, feel what's going on inside your heart and in your mind, what is it that you would feel? Like if you didn't listen to all the other people and yourself telling you what you should feel, what would you be feeling? What are you really feeling? 2 minutes for that. So for me, I put how I actually feel about my grandma passing away and being gone, about my loss, is I feel depressed about it still. Yeah, it's been like over 15 years and I am still sad. I still grieve. I'm still super sad. And I even use the word that I'm devastated about it. I'm devastated that she's gone. I still live in the house that we lived in when she was here, and still at moments forget that she's not here, because I just think she's in her room or she's eating snacks at the table. And sometimes when I don't have work, I sit, I look at the window where she used to sit and like watch, like the elementary school down there. She used to watch me when I was down in elementary school, and I used to wave to her because I could see her up all the way up on the hill. But I also feel guilty. Sometimes I feel guilty that I wasn't there. I feel guilty that I couldn't help her. I feel guilty I didn't do all these things like go visit her in the Philippines, that I didn't call her or write her. But I feel selfish for wishing that she was still here, you know? I feel angry and I feel scared at times because I wonder, in my belief, I don't know where she ended up, you know? And I also still feel confused about, I still feel confused about how to feel. It's been 15 years, but I remember when my dad first told me that she had died 2 weeks before I found out, and they didn't want to tell me because I was taking finals for college, you know, and I just was like mad and sad, and you know, I still get confused sometimes. Um, so with that, the next question is, in what ways? Well, actually, let me share with you how what someone put here in the group chat. Someone said that they feel that they want to get out of the maze, but somehow it feels comfortable not having to face the problems. At the same time, she knows that moving forward is important, but she's taking her time to search for a new path. And she feels bad for her parents for worrying. I think that's a definite like hard thing when it comes to dealing with loss and grief, especially when you're someone who cares about other people. Sometimes we get so caught up about how do other people feel that we focus on other people rather than on ourselves and how to help ourselves. We're worried about what other people are thinking, what they're feeling, you know? And that does affect how we see it and how we feel it, right? Thanks for sharing. So this next question is, in what ways do you feel helpless when it comes to that loss? What are things that you felt like you had no control over it? So go ahead and take 2 minutes to think about that. So for me, when it comes to feeling helpless about my loss, about the loss of my grandma, I felt helpless because as she was passing away, it was in the Philippines, and they were trying to drive her through the traffic in the Philippines to get her to the hospital because she couldn't breathe. And her last breaths and moments were her calling out to me. She was saying, apparently, Mei Li, which is my Chinese name, Mei Li, I can't breathe. Where are you? And I felt helpless that I couldn't be there, you know, to help her, to take care of her the way that she always took care of me. But I also feel helpless because death is a natural part of life. I mean, 100% of 100, you know, of people, we all die, you know, and it's just a part of life. So you can't control that. Someone put here, she felt helpless about losing motivation to do things, not being able to give back to her parents to make their lives easier. Thanks for sharing. Yeah. And I think sometimes that's what's hard when we face loss and grief is that because we feel these certain guilts or these certain areas where we feel helpless, it sometimes like elongates our process, you know, of healing and moving through our grief and moving through these things because it kind of paralyzes us. And so, with that, thank you for bringing us actually to this next question. What are the secondary losses you experienced? So, secondary losses, as I had mentioned, secondary losses are you have a primary loss, but there's other things you lose that are related that happen because of that loss. So, it could be losses can be, like how my friend here shared, losing also the motivation to do things. You don't just lose, because you're on a new path, you also lose your motivation. Or another loss is feeling that loss of being able to provide for someone else. But yeah, in terms of your loss, what are the secondary losses you experienced related to the one you chose for today? So for me, some of my secondary losses, I lost my protector. She was always the one who helped me out, like when my brother was trying to attack me. Shout out Henson. Henson's my brother. I also lost music for a while. I didn't want to play music because my dad gave me the guitar and was like, "Your grandma gave me this guitar to give, help me choose it out for you." And I was like, "How can I play this guitar?" I lost my sense of comfort, my sense of safety. My fun partner is what I put because we would, like always laugh together and smile together. And I also put I lost my TV buddy because we used to sit and watch TV together. My partner in crime because my dad always said that I couldn't leave the dinner table until I finished eating, so she would help me sneak some of my food away, so I wouldn't have to sit there too long. But I also lost a sense of my identity because she was that tie to my culture, to my family, and it was hard when she left because our family, my dad's side, used to visit us only because she was living with us. But after she like passed away, none of them came around anymore. Where'd they go? No one knows. Also, here in the chat, someone says that because of their loss, they also lost time. They felt they lost time and they felt they lost friends. I think secondary loss of losing time is a big one. You feel like these things that you went through, like, was it all a waste? That comes in different forms. Thank you for sharing. Oops. And that last one, I forgot to add a different one. So we'll ignore that last one. So thank you for participating in those writing exercises. I wanted to give you guys kind of like a bill of rights when it comes to grief. I work at UCSF for clinical research, and one of our jobs is to consent people, which means to tell them what they're about to do and let them know what their rights are when it comes to research studies. I work with cancer. But there's this Bill of Rights, like you have the right to, right? Also, I guess like the U.S. Constitution has a Bill of Rights, right? So anyway, I created this. So When it comes to grief, here's some of your rights. You have the right to decide what to grieve about. Some people will tell you, hey, you shouldn't be grieving over that. It's not a big deal, or that's dumb to grieve about that. Why are you sad for? You have the right to talk about it or not talk about it. I do believe that you get to choose when you want to talk about it, how you want to talk about it, or if you don't want to talk about it, if you want to just move on and be, like focus on other things. You have the right to need people. I think a lot of times we feel like we can't allow other people in, like I should be strong enough. I should be, able to deal with this on my own. I do feel like that's like our pride talking, and I'm part of this book club where we're actually studying pride, so that's why I bring this up. But it's okay to need people. You have the right to need other people. I think personally, I think that that's what God gave us, is this need to have other people help us through some of these things. You have the right to grieve uniquely. So there's no particular way to grieve. Do you have to cry to grieve? No. Do you have to not cry to grieve? No. Do you have to attend a funeral to show that you're grieving? No. Like, do you have to post on social media that you're grieving? No. So grieve in your own way, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody, okay? As long as it doesn't hurt you or hurt other people, you can grieve in your own way. Okay. I believe you have the right to feel and think all your feelings and thoughts. Like I said in the other one, other people will tell you how you should feel. You may tell yourself how you should feel, but you got to give yourself, allow yourself, give yourself permission to feel what you're feeling, to think thoughts that you're thinking. You have the right to be angry at different things. It could be at death, the concept of death. It could be at God. It could be at yourself. It could be at other people. It could even be at the object of your loss, like I could be angry at my grandma for leaving. You have the right to decide your rituals related to the loss. And those rituals could be, the funeral process. Another ritual could be that you write about it. Another ritual could be that every time you do a certain thing, you're reminded of this thing, of your loss. You're also, you have the right to have grief bursts. And so basically that's when all of a sudden you just feel super sad about it again. 15 years plus for when my grandma passed away, and I still sometimes have grief bursts where suddenly I'm just sad about it and I start crying. That's okay. You feel what you want, what you need to feel. You have the right to grieve on your own timeline. Don't let anybody else tell you like, oh, you should be over it by now. And I've had people say that to me. Your grandma passed away over 15 years ago. Aren't you over it by now? Well, no, like she was like my mom. I loved her. She loved me. She meant so much to me. So no, no, I'm not gonna get over it. So grieve on your own timeline. Allow yourself to heal, to have that process for yourself. And lastly, I put here, you have the right to let go of or take back things of your life. In our life, there's things that because of losses, we may have to let go of it. For me, in terms of loss of one of my friendships, I actually stopped playing sports because that person was so closely tied to all my sports teams and intramurals that I wanted to join. So I actually stopped playing sports because of that person. But at the same time, I have the right to take it back if I want to. If I want to play sports and it means something to me, I can take that back and say, you know what? Yes, it was this loss caused me to let go of this thing, but you know what? That's important to me. I'm going to take it back. So that brings us to our next slide, our next question, which is, when it comes to this loss, what do you feel you had to change or let go of because of this loss or during your grief? And then from that list, what are things that are really important to you or that made you happy before the situation, and how can you take those things back for yourself? That's a secondary question that you don't necessarily have to answer, but the main question, 2 minutes. What do you feel you had to change or let go of because of this loss or during your grief? So let me start our clock. 2 minutes. So yeah, when you get a chance, you can go back through your list of things. Because I do think it's important that you um, like take that right to, let go of things or take it back. And I think that that's what's hard a lot of times when we lose something. We feel like, oh, I just have to let go of all those things, that are related to that loss, especially when it comes to a person, right? Or a career or something like I just have to let it go and move on and do something new. But if it's something that you love and it made you happy, you have the right to take it back for yourself. For me, when it comes to my grandma, I said that I had to change being weak and I had to start taking care of myself because I used to always run to her when I was sad or something like that because she would bring me comfort. But I also was tired of crying because I would cry a lot when I was growing up. I would say I actually like cried almost every day, if not every day. And at some point I decided, you know what, I'm tired of crying. I'm not going to cry anymore. But I do recognize like crying is a gift from God to help us heal, a self-soothing thing. So that's something I want to take back for myself, allowing myself to cry. I have this saying, I say, it's okay to cry, just make sure you don't drown. Like give yourself time to feel what you're feeling, but not so much where it paralyzes you and stops you from everything else in your life. Someone here said, I had to change my dream of becoming a CSI because I wasn't able to join the police academy since I became a mom. I needed to find a job that wasn't risky. I had to adapt a healthy way to get rid of my stress, like kickboxing, instead of taking it out on people as anger. I really appreciate what you've said there because you found a way, yeah, to adapt. I think that's a key word, adapt. And I did see a social media picture of you kickboxing, so that's pretty cool. But I like that you tried to find a healthier way to deal with your grief, to deal with your feelings and emotions. Thank you for sharing. All right. So for this one, we are going to, I'm just going to give 2 minutes for you guys to just kind of look at all these questions. Actually, hold on, let me see. Nah, actually, we got time. Okay. Um, so I'm just going to give you 2 minutes on each of these things because for me, I do want to move us towards more of a positive, a starting place for healing. I don't know if you guys have heard of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, but on TV especially, they always start with them in a circle and they share, "Hi, my name is," and then they say their name. hi, my name is Melody and I'm an alcoholic, right? And the reason why they do that is because acknowledgement of something is always the way to start in healing or moving from that thing. And so, today in our workshop, we're trying to, have this starting place for healing for all of us. But at the same time, I don't want to leave you all in a sad place. So here are some questions to kind of think through to kind of help you move towards seeing that loss in a different way, maybe shifting your paradigm. So the first question is, when it comes to this loss, the thing that you lost, what is your favorite memory related to it? So what is your favorite memory or memories? Maybe you have a lot. I'm going to give you guys 2 minutes to go through that. So for me, some of my favorite memories related to the loss of my grandma, or to my grandma, should I say, is feeding birds. My love for animals, it comes from my grandma, I think, because we used to stand at the back of our room window and our house and feed blue jays. We used to feed them bread, and the blue jays would actually fly all the way to the window and sit there with us and just hang out. It was really bizarre. It was like my grandma was like Snow White or something. Um, but it was one of my favorite memories with her. I'm not going to give 2 minutes necessarily for all of these other ones, but just take a minute. Who is someone that you want to talk to about this loss? Um, I feel like, there are times where we want to just like get it out, but there's certain people that we want to sit there with because we know that what they say could help us process, or because they are facing the same things. So who is that person you want to talk to about this loss? Um, Oh, I want to share from our group chat here. Someone said, because of this loss, I am able to see my daughter grow up and achieve every milestone with her along the way, hoping that one day she will grow up into a person who's open-minded and will achieve her dreams. And I hope that I will be a good role model for her as well. My friend, I won't give your name, but my friend, you are. And I hope that she will join us for FNKO when she gets a little older. She can hang out and play drums and things. Yeah, who is someone you want to talk to about this loss that you're facing? And then the next question, who is someone you want to ask you about this loss? I feel that question is different and unique, something I thought about for myself. Um, Like, it's one thing to want to talk to someone about it, but it's another thing to have someone show that they care when they ask you how you're doing about it. I think a lot of times people feel like our friends or other people feel like they don't want to bring it up. And it's funny because it's like they don't want to bring it up because they don't want to make you think about it. But in reality, you're thinking about it anyway. It's not like it's like going to be a surprise, right? So it's nice to know that someone cares enough to ask you how you're doing about it, or to show you that they actually want to listen to you about what you're going through. You know, so yeah, who is someone also that you want to who you want them to ask you about your loss? And then on another note, who actually helped you? Who was actually there to support you through this loss? Who was there or is there? And the last bit, what are positive things that occurred because of the loss? So a lot of times when we think of loss, we think about all the things that were taken away, the secondary losses, right? But there are things that happened because of that loss. If that thing was still there, if that person was still there, I mean, we don't know honestly, like if certain other things would have happened or not, or some things would have come your way or not. But yeah, what are some positive things that occurred because of the loss? Someone shared here. I think I would take to talk to my mom about this loss, but I'm scared that if I hear something that I don't agree with, I'll get angry. Yeah. People usually only want to hear what they want to hear and push away ideas that they don't like. Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like for me, there's people that I want to talk to about different things that have gone on in my life, but I know certain people who I would talk to something about, and other people that I would talk to another thing about. There's some people where if I just need it straight, like I want you to be my devil's advocate, I know you're the person I'm going to go talk to. If I want someone who is going to be there and very supportive and encouraging. Like I know, like my friend Joy is definitely one of those people. And her name is like kind of defines her, like is a definition of her. But, she's someone I would go and talk to. Yeah, and I totally agree with this other thing on chat. Uh, Someone says positive things include realizing the people who stood by your side and really care about you. And that's actually one of the things I also put. The way I put it was positive thing that occurred is being able to experience the love and support of other people as I was going through the initial loss and continue to grieve and share. All right. So now we've come to the meat of our time. And so we're actually going to take, let's see, yeah, like 10 minutes for this. And I want you guys to choose one of these prompts or a combination of them. It's basically just write. So here's the different prompts. Write a letter to the object. So, because it could be a person, it could be a thing, it could be a place that you lost. Write a letter to the object of your loss and say all the things you've wanted to say and held inside. Another prompt. Imagine you are your future self and write an encouragement letter to your current self, the one who's going through that loss. The next one is embrace the dialectic. So the dialectic is being able to like you're kind of looking for truth in the situation. And so embracing that dialectic is contrasting between what you didn't have control of because of that during that loss or because of that loss and what you do have control of. The other prompt is write about what you've learned from your loss and grief because loss and grief, they're great teachers if we keep our eyes and our hearts open to it. And last prompt, visualize a positive future. Who am I? Where am I going? How will I get there? When will I know that I belong? When will I know that I'm there? So yeah, pick one of these prompts, a combination, or write whatever you feel like writing. You'll have 10 minutes. I'll play some light music behind you guys. And yeah, just get all the words out of yourself. Here we go. wrapping up your last sentence or so. Start wrapping up your last idea there. So it looks like someone has shared what they wrote today, but I want to ask all of you before I share what our friend here in the chat wrote. But how did it feel writing? You guys could answer in the group chat. Yeah, how did it feel for you as you were writing, as you're going through this whole process today? How did it feel? What did you experience here? Someone said a sense of relief, mini closure. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, if you guys just respond in the group chat, let us know how it felt for you to write or to go through just this process, this starting place for healing. I'm going to share with you what someone shared with us in the group chat, what they wrote to their future self. Here we go. Dear my future self, you are strong and independent. You will find something that gives you purpose. Your journey may take longer than other people, but there are people who will help you along the way. You are not alone. You will finish your classes this year and find a job working with families at nonprofit organizations that feel as helpless as you were before. You will be able to help these people get back on their feet. There will be times along the road when you might get stuck, but that's okay. Just keep swimming. You will know that you belong once your heart is content. Elena will see how hard you are working, and you will influence her to become the best version of herself. It's okay to take time off and travel once in a while, because in exploration, you will find new ideas and learn something about yourself as well. Thanks for sharing that. I want to share with you guys what I wrote. A little part of it is in Chinese, so I'll give you the quick translation. Ni hao means hello. Wo ai ni means I love you, and wo xiang ni means I miss you. Okay, here we go. Ni hao, ama. Wo ai ni. Wo xiang ni. That is a little bit of what I remember from the language I took so that I could surprise you. We had a language barrier between our mouths, but never between our hearts. You always knew what to say, with a hand in mine, a rub of my back, a smile that would put the sun to shame. I worry about where you are. Are you doing okay? Could you answer me if there's a way? I feel alone in this empty house. I hear the echoes of your footsteps. Your voice is fading away. But I still allow myself to relive the moments when you were still here. Lai chat lo, I would call. Come eat. Come eat with me. You're still with me. I am who I am because you are who you were. I am patient with those who cannot understand. I sit with those who just need a friend. I smile in case that's all you need to fix a broken reed. I love no matter who you are, near or far. I celebrate every minute of every day in every single way I can. Ama, I'm sad people don't know you on this earth, but for what it's worth, I am who I am because you were who you are. 我想你，我爱你。再见, Ama. 再见 means bye. So I hope that you guys had a great time in this workshop with me today. I just have a couple more things I want to share with you guys to close up our time. So let me share my screen with you one more time. Here are my last thoughts for you. Healing is a process. It's not just going to happen instantaneously, normally, but usually it's a process, and sometimes it's a lifelong process. You can't change what happened. You can't change that thing that is lost, but you can decide how that loss will impact you. Will it paralyze you? Will it help move you towards something else? Will you just stay where you are? It's your decision. Be aware of your triggers. So there are some things that trigger us to be sadder than others, right? Sometimes it's certain dates like anniversaries. Sometimes it's certain areas, like while we're driving or when we're walking. Sometimes it's certain things like certain foods, birds, I don't know. But you can also create happy triggers. Like you can even make those triggers into happy ones by thinking of what it was about that originally was something that was happy. Or maybe it's like every time you're walking down the hallway of your house, like for me, then I can think of my grandma. Like that could be a happy trigger and just remember her, right? Community can bring comfort and encouragement, and I hope that you guys were able to find that and feel that here. I know that it's different when we're virtual, but I hope that you guys were able to kind of feel that through your screen. Find ways to take care of yourself. A lot of times our grief, it affects us not only mentally, but emotionally, but also physically, So make sure you're eating, Try to make things simpler if you need to, if you're normally would make an elaborate dinner, like a 4-course dinner, invite me over. Just kidding. But if, you usually would do that, but you're in a time of grieving and loss, make it simpler or go out to eat with some people. There's different ways to take care of yourself, and I believe also that reading and listening to poetry can be one of them. And when I say listening to poetry, it's because I do find that music is a type of poetry that you can listen to. And so if you give me a couple more minutes here, I know we're hitting 3:30. I'm almost done here. I'm just wrapping us up. I want to share this song with you by Mercy Me. It's a song that reminded me of my grandma and losing her, and a song that I wish that I had performed at her funeral if I was able to. So I ended up playing it as a tribute to her, even though I couldn't be at her funeral. So it says, "You're in a better place, I've heard 1,000 times, and at least 1,000 times I've rejoiced for you. But the reason why I'm broken, the reason why I cry, is how long must I wait to be with you? I close my eyes and I see your face. If home's where my heart is, then I'm out of place. Lord, won't you give me strength to make it through somehow? I've never been more homesick than now. Help me, Lord, because I don't understand your ways. The reason why I wonder if I'll ever know. But even if you showed me, the hurt would be the same because I'm still here, so far away from home. In Christ, there are no goodbyes, and in Christ, there is no end. So I'll hold on to Jesus with all that I have to see you again, to see you again." So that is a beautiful song, and just that poetry of it, has really helped me. That even if I knew, like, oh, God took, my grandma away at that time because she was going through so much pain, I would still feel sad, and that's okay. So my last thoughts is just keep writing. Write to express yourself, write to process, to heal, to remember, to help others. Just write. If you want to connect with me, here is different ways to connect with me through Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. You can connect with me. I'd love to hear from you guys. Also, I'd love to be a part of your process of healing, to hear what you're going through. I can be a part of that community that you create to help you through this. I can be there to listen or to talk. And lastly, thanks for coming. I really appreciate your time, and I hope that you were able to find, a good starting place for healing with me today. Please feel free to share this. It's being recorded. I'm going to post it later on. So share it with other people who may need to go through this process. And if you want to see the slides, I will also post some information at our website, which is, up, hold on, let me show you up here, which is over here. That's our website. So I will post some questions in case you want to process other things that you've lost or continue processing what you've lost. But thanks for being a part of my process. Thanks for being here to encourage other people, to allow them to see they're not alone in loss and grief. And I know there's a lot of people out there who do need to move from that denial stage into acknowledgement, but maybe this is a way for them to help them start that process. So anyways, know that you are not alone. Keep writing. Feel free to join us for the next the flow, which will be in about a month. I'll try to get out the information sooner than later, and I'll come up with the topic sooner than later. But if you have some topics for themes for the flow, let me know. But anyways, I'm praying for safety and good health for all of you guys. So take care and see you guys soon. Bye. I'll just keep waving as you guys head out. See ya.